And I want to point out something else. Someone else in chat says, well, the problem with humans is that for every rule, there's always exceptions. I'm not talking about rules. So if you think in terms of rules, you're wrong. Principles are hierarchical. There are not exceptions to principles. There's application of principle. If there's an exception to a principle, then it's wrong. So like the principles have a context. They have certain applications. They only are valid within that context. They typically rely on maybe a higher concept, like a higher, abstractually a higher concept.
I think it would help if you illustrate, or in your own words, Carter, tell us what's the difference between a rule and a principle.
A rule is just almost like an aphorism. Like you must always tell the truth. That's a rule, right? You must always tell the truth. Okay, I'll use an example from, I don't remember who said this. It might have been Leonard Peikoff, someone else. It's a great example. Okay, an axe murderer arrives at your house, knocks on the door. You answer the door, and he says, "Hi, I'd like to kill your children. Where are they?" Well, do you have to follow the rule of always telling the truth? Or are you making an exception? Well, if you live life by rules, you view that as an exception. If you live life by principles, you understand that the nature of a lie is the attempt to gain a value through deception. And self-defense is not gaining a value. So deception's perfectly acceptable if someone's initiated the use of force and threatened it against you. It's not a lie. You don't have to say, go down the hall, it's your second door on the left. You can lie. You can lie because you can be dishonest, because what makes dishonesty bad is the attempt to gain a value through deception.
So
right?
you gave an example of a rule. I'm trying to make this more simple. You gave an example of a rule. Always tell the truth. What's an example of a principle? What is a principle?
Well, the principle would be the principal way of looking at that thing is to understand, okay, why is that even a general rule? What is a lie? We're back to definitions. Like, what do we mean by a lie? Right? What do we mean by it? It's not just saying something. It's the attempt to gain a value through deception. Why? That's related to faking reality, right? So like if you're trying to fake reality or force someone else to fake reality, that then can tie to ethics and trying to fake what's actually true about reality, right? So there's an ethical argument there that stems from higher abstractions and then filters down through don't attempt to gain values through deception with other humans. Okay, like that makes sense. But when the guy knocks on your door, if you're operating through a principle and you understand that principle, this is why I don't normally lie to people. And he says, I want to kill the kids. I've got my axe. Where are they? You don't feel any sort of like, well, I guess I'm going to have to lie. You know damn well the purpose of not deceiving and that he's initiated the use of force. You have no obligation to not deceive him. There's no conflict there. There's no contradiction in your rule. There's no rule breaking. There's no exception. Your behavior does not have to comport with a blanket rule. Rules are often just taken out of context and thrown around like these easy to remember things, right? Don't ever blah. Don't ever kill anyone.
Would you say that most rules are derived from principles, but they can be divorced from them, or people
often rules are derived from legitimate principles in common circumstances. And then there are exceptions, obviously, to common circumstance. So people then say, well, there's exceptions to these rules. But the rules aren't the starting point. The rules are a distillation that mostly work because of some principle upon which they're built. So the don't lie one is an example, right? Or the don't kill. Mostly you shouldn't kill. But if someone is holding your, loved one at gunpoint and you have an opportunity to take him out, killing's totally fine, right? So there are... Rules are generally just kind of dumbed down versions of principles that would apply in most circumstances. And I'm not talking about figuring out rules, because look, everyone's got different sets of rules and aphorisms. We're in a world full of pragmatism where if people just throw out little quippy, cute little aphorisms or, nice little quips about always do this, blah, 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 never do that. Like, those contradict each other millions of times over in lots of situations. You can't possibly swim around that. And if your answer is, well, sometimes there's an exception, then you're not really answering anything. You don't have any system worked out. You've reduced your entire viewpoint to pick and choose whatever you feel like, because there's always an aphorism that will give you what you need to, will justify what you want to do or what you feel like doing. So you're not living by any system at that point. You're just living by your gut. All right, you're just living by what you feel like doing, and you can yank any quote from any famous person to justify it at any given time. That's not living morally at all. So,
you know what side your biscuit's buttered on? I'm kidding. I'm sorry, that was an aphorism joke. Never mind.
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out how it applies.
You're looking to see who's got the butter. I don't know.
And look, and often things are more complex, right? And often things are thrown at you in false dichotomies. Should we wear masks or not? That's not even a question. That's not even a valid question. Should we wear masks or not? Who's we? Who's we? What are you talking about? That's not even a question. That's not even a valid question. No person with their philosophical head screwed on straight says, should we wear masks or not? That's not a question, right? What does should mean in this? Do you mean the government force? Who's we? What are you talking about? Right? Should you wear a mask in a particular situation? Maybe. It's up to you, right? It depends on your value set, your risk tolerance, your condition, where you're going, what the risk exposure is. Yeah. So most things are pretty. Often things are complex, right? And that's just the messy nature of life. But they're going to get us with this stuff. They're going to get us with. They're going to get a lot of us, well-meaning people who haven't bothered to try and build their own integrated philosophy, their own non-contradictory viewpoint on the world. And they're going to throw things out like, well, shouldn't we do this? Shouldn't we help people do that? Shouldn't this exist? Shouldn't that? What about this? We should do this thing. And you'll find yourself unprepared for the argument, i.e. disarmed, and you may become a tool of the oppressors. And by the time you realize that they've escalated to the point where, well, shouldn't we put them on boxcars? It's too late. You figured out that one was wrong, but you missed all the turning up the heat the whole time. So with people, I'm relating it back to the people you're talking about, people coming out of this stuff, people starting to take the red pill. I think helping them, arming them with the tools to be able to unravel their own, to see deception on their own and unravel it and come to their own conclusions on things. Like start with what they realized, right? Whatever there's red pilling them now. Maybe it's censorship. What does it mean? What is government censorship versus other censorship, right? Why is it bad? Is it always bad? Is there a principle behind it? Is there not a principle behind it? Like, what's the fundamental nature of what's wrong with what's Twitter doing? Is there anything wrong with what's Twitter doing? Is there something bigger? Like, is it their right to do, but still a bad idea? Like, there can be complexity there.
Yeah.
And helping them think through it and not just if they just throw their allegiance into another tribe, they're not going to be helpful.
Yeah.
They're not
I
going to be
agree.
helpful.